Was promoted over my best friend at work, and she pretended to be happy until I realized she'd been slowly sabotaging my projects behind the scenes and had sent anonymous tips to HR that almost got me fired for something I didn't do. They mentioned my name halfway through Monday morning meeting. Between the seconds the regional performance charts appeared on the screen, and I swear, for a second, I did not even blink because I thought they had gotten it wrong. Like, I actually looked around, thinking they would say her name instead. But it was mine. I was promoted to Director of Strategic Ops. I should have been proud, shouldn't I? I should have smiled and been all charming and thank you. But all I could think was how Sam looked. She blinked, hard and hard, then gave the kind of smile you give when someone else gets the thing you were convinced you already had. I'd seen that face before, when she didn't get into college, the one she'd applied for, when her ex got engaged to another girl. We'd been best friends since the internship program 3 years ago. Did everything together. Had the same birthday month, the same coffee order, finished each other's sentences. Or at least I thought we did. We joked that we were a corporate power couple. And in all fairness, I always figured that she was a better boss than me. Smarter, faster, just a wee bit more elegant. So when they promoted the job to me, half of me hoped that she would stand up and say, "Just kidding, y'all. This is Sam's promotion." But she didn't. She stood up, hugged me so hard, said, "You deserve this," and returned down to sit with this strange placidity on her face that was almost too placid. I didn't give it much thought at the time. I just wrote it off as her being bummed out. I would have been too. She even brought in cupcakes in the office a week later with my name written in gold letters on them. Everyone loved it. Informed us that we were such a non-egotistical friendship, pure love. And I wished it were so. I really did. But little things went awry from then on. First, a file got left out of a presentation folder I definitely uploaded. Then a meeting with one of our suppliers got rescheduled without ever being notified. Then an email thread got CC'd to the wrong client with internal remarks meant not for anyone's eyes. Minor stuff, nothing that rendered me totally incompetent, but sufficient to make heads turn and people go, "Huh." I was second-guessing myself, double-checking, and even so, things fell through. My manager started keeping me behind during meetings with that concerned but composed tone of voice. I'd always been solid as a rock, dependable. Now I was the one they had to circle back with. It did get into my head, and that's when HR called me in. Told me they received an anonymous complaint that I had used project funds on a business lunch that never happened. My stomach dropped through the floor. I remember I was sweating so hard my back was glued to the chair. They showed me a screenshot of a receipt, my card, my name, my expense code. But I had not been at the restaurant. I had a calendar invite for a virtual strategy meeting at that same time. I had a Teams recording as well. But they had to investigate, which resulted in my temporary assignment to low responsibility for the next fortnight. The whole office knew. No one said anything to my face, but I could sense it. The shift. The manner in which others hesitated to approach me with questions as if I were tainted. I was grumbling at lunch, cold noodles from the break room fridge, to Sam, and she nodded along with it, even got upset on my behalf. "That's such crap," she said. "You work too hard for this kind of BS. Someone's out to get you." And I looked her straight in the face, and I figured she meant it. Because who else can I go to? Who else knows me so well? But that evening, I couldn't rest. Something about the way she said it, too affected, too perfectly phrased, it started getting to me. So I did something foolish. I went back through our history in our company drive and looked to see who had accessed the folder where this phony expense report was kept. Her name was on there. 2 days before the HR complaint came. I tried to brush it off. We share folders all the time, right? It didn't mean anything. But I could not shake this feeling, so I went through some of the older shared documents. The supplier meeting, which had been, accidentally, rescheduled? She was included in that calendar appointment. The misdirected email? She'd been CC'd along the string the whole time. And then I caught on, it was all of those little mistakes. They didn't fit my habits. I always saved files with timestamps. I always set 2 reminders on appointments. Those were not my errors. They were some copycat impersonating me close enough to survive on it. I was sick. Actually sick. Like I had to place my head between my knees and inhale slowly. Nevertheless, I did not want to think so. I rationalized perhaps she was being careless. Perhaps she just didn't realize how much damage she was doing. Perhaps I was being paranoid. So I waited. I watched. I said nothing. And then for the following weeks, I watched it all: file changes, login activity, Slack conversations. Sneakily gathering small pieces of a puzzle that I didn't even bother to complete. Then I had to admit it, she wasn't just disappointed. She was angry. And she wanted the job that she felt I had stolen from her. I did not seek revenge. I wanted my friend back. But by then I wasn't sure if she'd ever really been the person I thought she was. I imagined confronting her 100 different ways. Over wine at her apartment like two friends ironing things out. Or maybe in the office parking lot after work when nobody else was around. But every version I ran through in my head either ended with her lying to my face, or me just collapsing and begging her to tell me why. Why would she do this to us? To me? We'd worked late nights on so many nights at the office, carpooled home, even given each other fake alibis when our personal lives got dirty. I'm the one who drove her to the ER when she had that awful panic attack, 2 years ago. I sat in her hospital room when she didn't want to call her sister. So how do you move from there to working quietly, methodically behind the scenes to take someone down? I kept waiting for her to mess up. To fuck up. Say something that betrayed her. But she was always so guarded. She'd come to my workstation, ask how I was holding up, offer me coffee with those stupid caramel syrups that I liked. She even told me, in this soft voice like she actually cared, "Whatever's going on, you're gonna get through it. You always do." I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled. Politely thanked her. Went back to pretending everything was fine. But anxiety was eating away at me. Every day I existed as if walking on glass. I didn't trust anybody. I barely trusted myself. My work felt robotic. Go through the motions, keep your head down, don't offer anyone cause for concern. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. Sometimes my hands would even shake just to open my laptop. And worst of all was, nobody else was aware. They all still thought we were best friends. She kept up the act so well. She even started posting throwbacks of us on Instagram, marked things like, "From interns to execs? Proud of you always, girl." As if we were in some inspirational movie. It made me sick. I couldn't take it anymore at some point. I salvaged all of the suspicious files, email threads, calendar entries. I managed to quietly scrounge up whatever I could and handed it over to IT. I asked if they perform an audit. Not an official one, just a favor. I'd been working on a side project with one of the IT guys last year, and I guess he liked me well enough to oblige. A couple of days later, he called me in, very subdued. He was holding a printout. He didn't say anything. Just slid it across the table and said, "I'd keep this to ourselves for now." And when I looked down, it was all there. Logins from her computer to my folders late at night. IPs tracing back to her laptop opening my confidential files. A message she deleted and recovered on the server, an anonymous tip to HR, written in her exact style, same bizarre punctuation she always employed. There was no longer any question. She'd set me up. She'd tried to destroy me. And I don't know what hit harder, reading it in black and white or understanding I hadn't been insane the whole time. That all the gut instincts, all the midnight spirals, they weren't paranoia. They were reality. I just sat there for a while after the IT guy had gone. Just staring at that page like it might burst into flames if I kept looking too long. Then I stuffed it in my bag, left the office, and went home. I didn't say anything to anyone. Didn't even turn the lights on in my apartment. Just sat on the ground with my back against the couch, clutching that dumb piece of paper and wondering what my next move was. Because a part of me wanted to report her immediately, blow it all wide open, clear my name, get her fired. But another half of me, the half that still remembered laughing together in the break room or dancing blind in our old apartment on some snowstorm night, didn't want to be the one who destroyed her. Even though she wouldn't hesitate to try and destroy me. It was like grieving someone who wasn't dead. Like pining after a friendship that maybe never was what I thought it was. I didn't sleep either that evening. But the next day, I printed it all out. Put it in a folder. Went into HR with shaking hands and a voice that was just barely together. They listened to me. Nodded. Wrote down some notes. Said they'd follow up. It seemed like nothing at first. Like throwing a stone into the ocean and watching for a wave. I continued working like normal. She smiled on, as if everything was the same. But something was. Because I wasn't afraid anymore. I knew what she'd done. I knew it wasn't my mind playing tricks on me. And soon she'd know that I did. The oddest aspect was the way everything went quiet after that. HR never contacted me for almost 2 weeks. There was no follow-up, no meeting, only this waiting game that turned every working minute into wading through mist. Sam did not act any differently either. Still invited me to lunch, still sent memes on our Slack team, still overlaughed too loudly in meetings when someone made a horrific joke. If she had any idea, she didn't show it. And for an instant, I wavered again. Maybe HR didn't believe me. Maybe she was just too prudent. Maybe she'd mess up just enough to get off free. And maybe I was to be a cranky, paranoid woman with a vendetta against her best friend. That was a reality that hung in my chest like a rock. But then one Thursday, during the lunchtime hour, I saw her name disappear from our team's Slack channel. Poof. No note, no heads up, suddenly gone. And then a couple of minutes after that, my supervisor walked over and asked if I had a minute to meet with him. I followed him to the glass conference room and saw 2 from HR already seated inside, folders on the table between them. The door closed, and they didn't waste any time. They told me that they had completed their investigation. That the proof I'd provided had led to a complete reconsideration of Sam's history of access, use of email, and even work phone personal messages. That it wasn't just me she'd been going after, she'd been secretly sabotaging some of the other members of the team too. Not as bad as what she'd done to me, but sufficient to establish a pattern. They informed her that her job was being terminated effective immediately. They informed me I'd be cleared of all the charges from the past and a formal apology would be placed on my record. I didn't know if I was relieved or brokenhearted. I didn't say anything for several seconds. Just sat there blinking while my boss very politely asked me if I was okay. I replied, "Yeah, I guess so." But I didn't actually know then. They asked me if I had any requests or questions. I replied no. I didn't want anything else. I just wanted to return to work. So I did. I got up and left that room, returned to my desk, and opened my laptop as if it were an everyday day. But this silence at the office was different. Everyone knew. Not everything, but some. Some of my coworkers gave me the stare, some sympathetic, some shocked, 1 or 2 looked away completely. I couldn't fault them. All of this has been out of sight until this moment that it is. Later in the afternoon, I found a sticky note on my monitor. No signature. A single sentence, written in Sam's own handwriting. "You'll always be second best." My heart sank, but I did not cry. I did not even tear it up. I folded it properly, put it in my drawer, and locked it. Not because I did not wish to get rid of it, but because I needed to remember how close I had been to losing everything all because of something I thought was a genuine friendship. I tidied my flat that weekend. Not a spring clean deep sort of thing, more of a purge. I threw away the old photo booth strips of us on the fridge. The novelty mugs we kept as a joke on that awful work retreat. The birthday cards, the in-jokes, the hoodies she always borrowed. All of it. Gone. I didn't do it out of revenge. I just couldn't have pieces of her lingering around in my place anymore, speaking to me every time I passed them. I needed room to breathe. But even with all that gone, she still showed up in my head. In little ways. Like when I passed by our favorite dumpling place or heard a song we used to play on the way to work. She would call me her person. I think she meant it. That was the element that stuck. Not the sabotage, not the lying, not even the HR accusation. Just the betrayal behind it all. How a human being can smile you in the face and say, "I love you," when they're secretly destroying your parachute. I couldn't help but wonder at the expense to her. I asked myself, did she think she was in the right? Did she think that she'd been denied something that was hers? And did I ask myself, would I have acted the same way, if roles had been reversed? I hated that question. For I knew with all my heart that I would not have. I'd have been her cheerleader. I'd have cried for joy. I would have made her a stupid little slideshow and decorated her desk and have meant every word of it. That is what made this so hard. I showed her true loyalty, and she used it against her. However, I did not want anything bad to happen to her. I did not wish to see her fail. I just did not want to have her around anymore. And maybe that was the most grown-up thing I could have done, let her go without having to watch her burn. Just leave. Quietly. For myself. There were weeks and things in work slowly started getting back to normal, or some kind of normal. People stopped tiptoeing around me. My boss looped me in on bigger projects again. I even started to get my confidence back, little by little. But something inside me had shifted. Not in a loud, flamboyant way, more the quiet sort of change you recognize when you turn around and see the walls you thought were impassable actually had cracks. I kept showing up, doing my job, smiling in meetings. But I stopped staying late just to prove myself. Stopped being everyone's biggest cheerleader. I just streamlined. Kept my energy guarded. Learned to keep a bit to myself. There were some people who did notice, I think. 2 or 3 coworkers asked if I was okay, and I just said, "Yeah, I'm good." Because what was there to say? I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't upset, really. Just tired. As if my head had been lugging this ginormous burden for all these years, and now it was over, I no longer knew what to carry. One evening while walking home from work, I passed by that exact same dumpling place we'd go to after work. For a fleeting moment, I thought about texting her. A simple sentence, "Why?" But I didn't. What good would it do? I already knew why. She didn't see me as being her best friend. She saw me as being her competition. And in where she resided, both of us had to lose. That wasn't ever my way of thinking. I always thought we were building something together. I felt we were giving to each other. But maybe I didn't read the signs. Maybe the signs were there all along, and I just was too caught up in believing her to see them. That was the pain I felt, not so much the betrayal, but the fact that I was so blind to it. How I justified for her even when my gut told me otherwise. That was something I had to own up to. So I started going to therapy. Just 1 time a week, nothing in depth. But it helped. Helped me work through what had happened, what it meant, how I could get on with my life without having all this uncertainty in my chest. My therapist told me something that I'm still mulling over. Just because someone loved you in their way doesn't mean it was the way you deserved. And I don't know, that struck me. Because I do believe Sam loved me, in her way. But her way was control-based. On being the smartest, the strongest, the most worthy. And I was her mirror to measure herself against. When I started shining a little too bright, she had to dull me down to feel okay. That is not a friend. That is staying alive. And I don't want to stay alive with someone's love. I want to feel it. To feel it securely. To feel it completely. I started taking weekends for myself again. Reading, walking, even those solitary movie nights that I used to love. I reached out to a few of my old friends that I'd fallen out with. Not to replace the space Sam vacated, but to reconnect to the parts of myself that I'd lost contact with while I was so immersed in that toxic closeness. And slowly, I began to feel like myself again. Not the version who needed to be liked or needed or impressive all the time. Just me. Flawed, giving, stumbling along. I was promoted again, 6 months later. This one wasn't a battlefield win. It felt one. One quietly, honestly. I kept the party low-key. Dinner with a few good friends, a walk by the river afterwards, no Instagram update, no big showing. Just presence. That was sufficient. Several months passed, and I saw her again. Sam. At a networking event downtown. She was in the rear, talking to someone in the marketing department. I don't believe she saw me. Or maybe she did and just glared past me. Either way, we didn't say a word. I didn't avoid her, but I didn't seek her out either. I just stood there for a moment. Her hair was shorter. Her smile was tired, but her laugh was the same. For a moment, all the usual feelings came rushing back, nostalgia and sadness, and even the smallest glimmer of guilt. And then it was gone. Like the clean air through an open window. I turned away and walked on. Not because I was chilled. Because I was at peace. That chapter in my life was over. Not erased. Not relived. Just done. She had her story, and I had mine. And mine wasn't one of revenge or bitterness or even justice. but one of learning what was the difference between loyalty and self-abandonment. Of recognizing that not everyone who cheers for you wants to see you win. And most importantly, learning to trust myself again. I'll never know what she talks about people about what happened between us. Maybe she paints me as the betrayer. Maybe she doesn't say anything. But I don't have to claim that story. I lived my truth. I stayed kind even when I was being hurt. And I left with my integrity intact. That's what I hold on to now. Not the pain, not the loss, just the humble power of surviving something that was meant to kill me, and choosing to heal despite it.